In addition to the Scott Williams video, you read three articles that addressed the topic of managers versus leaders. While all four resources paint a slightly different picture of the defining characteristics that separate the two roles, which is consistent with our earlier gripe that there isn't a clear consensus or a one-size-fits-all definition of leadership, we can find some common ground if we look hard enough. Most obviously, all four articles stress the fact that your organizational title doesn't necessarily make you a leader. In addition, whereas managing people largely involves maintaining some status quo, leading people is described by all four authors as involving something more than just keeping the machine running smoothly. Let's focus on the Zaleznik article. It's certainly the densest article I assigned this semester, so maybe we need some backstory to help you get the most out of the message. The Managers and Leaders Are They Different article was originally published in 1977 by the Harvard Business School as a response to a crisis of leadership. Organizational leaders at the time were complaining about the next generation of leaders. These young whippersnappers don't have what it takes to lead. No matter how much we invest in them, they fail. Abraham Zaleznik's article was a shot across the bow because he was basically saying, stop complaining. It's not them, it's you. The article was a polemic attempt to raise awareness to a fundamental flaw in how companies at the time approached leadership in the workplace. The same article was reprinted in 2004 because, well, history tends to repeat itself, and organizational leaders were complaining about the new generation of leaders, and again, the Harvard Business School wanted to shift the conversation from what's wrong with these kids to what's wrong with you as organizations responsible for grooming the future business leaders. And the reason I assigned the two additional web articles was to show that even today, there's active discussion of the differences between leaders and managers. So let's delve into Zaleznik's thinking. The paradigmatic thinking of the time, which perhaps hasn't changed much, as seen in our discussion board, is that while managing and leading may reflect different skills, there's little value in differentiating the two for practical purposes. A good employee will excel at both. Let's be clear. There certainly are individuals who are able to seamlessly shift from one skill to the other, and we should all aspire to be ambidextrous in this way. Where's the harm in that? But the point Zaleznik tries to address is what happens when companies build the foundations of organization on this assumption that the best managers will make the best leaders. We end up promoting people who excel based on their ability to manage people into leadership roles. Then we blame them for not being able to excel as leaders. We expect people who are able to organize resources, set tactical goals, incentivize action, monitor progress, and fix problems, all characteristics of great managers, to also be good at creating a company's strategic vision and inspiring stakeholders to internalize the vision. Now, both are critical to organizational success. An organization needs strong management and strong leadership. But Zaleznik argues that both require different types of people, and fostering the development of each often requires different types of experiences. In this sense, there's a folly in grooming one while we hope for another. Think of how much attention the typical organization pays to fostering managers through hiring, training, etc., as opposed to leaders. We can draw an analogy to professional sports. Imagine a baseball coach who tells his players, okay, everyone is going to start out as a batter. If you're good at hitting home runs, we'll promote you to be the team's pitcher. We wouldn't be surprised if this team has terrible pitching, but we blame the coaches here, not the pitchers, right? Because what it takes to excel at being a batter isn't necessarily the same set of muscles or skills that it takes to be a successful pitcher. An experience gained spending hours and hours in the batting cages hitting balls as far as you can hit them isn't necessarily going to translate to your new position as a pitcher trying to throw balls with pinpoint accuracy and maximum velocity. But isn't this how most of our organizations operate? The typical path to leadership is, if an employee excels at an entry-level position, we promote them to a management role, and if they distinguish themselves as managers, we give them the reins to lead the company. Zaleznik essentially says there's little reason to believe that the type of person who is best suited to lead a company will rise to the top of management roles. So if we're only promoting people based on their performance as managers, we may miss out on some individuals with the potential to be great leaders. And there's little reason to believe that the person who excels at management roles will be a good leader. So we have to stop thinking about leadership development as a linear progression up a corporate ladder. Instead, Zaleznik argues that we should first understand the characteristics of great leaders and seek to identify individuals within our company with the potential to be great leaders early on. Second, fast track these high potential people. And third, provide them with one-on-one mentorship experience to groom them for future leadership roles. A lot of this is easier said than done. Identifying leaders is difficult. Fast tracking them can create issues of equity and can create a culture of conflict. And mentorship has its own issues. For instance, many don't respond well to the notion that they are training their replacement. Regardless, the article does point out how our often misguided assumptions about leadership permeate our business operating principles. So there is value in attempting to clarify the difference between a manager and a leader, so we may design systems to recruit, train, retain, and leverage both. From a personal standpoint, I hope the message is one of self-reflection. Rather than getting bogged down by the "are managers and leaders two different people" debate, we should ask ourselves, if I want to eventually become a better leader, am I doing what it takes to get there? Or am I falling into the trap of assuming that working on my management skills will automatically translate into success as a leader? Another important takeaway has to do with what Zaleznik called twice-borns. Granted, much of the basis of Zaleznik's thinking is grounded in his background in Freudian psychoanalysis, interpreting implicit assumptions from random pictures and tracing everything back to mommy issues, which is no longer in vogue. So the once-borns and twice-borns distinction never really gained traction. It was a bit too psychoanalytic for the management field. But the idea that overcoming obstacles helps build resilience and shape our perspectives is still given a lot of attention today. If you're interested in learning more about this, I strongly suggest Malcolm Gladwell's book, David and Goliath, where he explores the advantages of disadvantages and how people who have learned to overcome disadvantages like learning disabilities, personal hardships, and failures often emerge in a better position to accomplish great things. So, while the Zaleznik reading may have been a bit long, dense, and blunt, I hope it has raised some interesting food for thought as we continue to develop our notion of leadership and what it takes to become a great leader.